Okay, let me share. بالله 10. All right. So today we're getting started with new lesson. We did day 1, which was React components and component state. We talked about basically what is a React component, how do you set up React, how do you put it together. We also set up a click listener. So that was the first lesson. The second lesson, we composed many components together. So we put together several components, and then we used props to pass down state, basically to pass down data from like the first component all the way to the other components. So today we're learning component side effects, and we're gonna learn some techniques of styling. We'll be using React Strap and also Bootstrap together to show you how to do basic styling. Component side effect, we'll learn what it is. Let's go in there. So make this a small. So component side effect in web application are very common. It's important to understand what side effects are so we can handle them properly in our components. CSS by itself can be hard to scale in large applications. Also, this is different part is talking about styling. So at the end of this class, you will be at the end of this lecture, you will be able to explain what side effects are in React components. You'll be able to demonstrate how to sync side effects with the state and props using effect hook. You'll be able to fetch data from an API using effect hook. And also you'll be able to demonstrate how to clean up side effects from the effect hook. Also, you will learn to understand how to style React components using React Strap and also Bootstrap in a way. All right. So in general, what is side effect? What is a side effect? When it comes to programming, usually side effect is something that happens outside of your expectation. So you run a function and you expect it to, let's say you have a function that prints, let's say, your name. And within that function, you add something like, you add an API call or something like that, or asynchronous program. So that program could fail, okay? So it could fail or it could be successful. So let's say you said, I want my name to be shown, and also I want the names from a database to be shown. So now you introduce a side effect, meaning you introduce something outside of the function, and the function doesn't have control of how the data is going to be rendered. I mean, how the data is going to be sent. So from the database. So the database could fail, or the server, it could respond successfully, it could respond failure. So that specific function has a side effect. Just like in real world, like when you take a medication, like coronavirus vaccine have a side effect, meaning there's something that the people who created the vaccine have no control over. It might happen to you, it might not happen to you, depending on your conditions, depending on how your health and a lot of things. So just like that in programming, especially in React, which is a function-based component, component, you could introduce a side effect, and also it's a class-based. But the main thing is you introduce a side effect by bringing something from outside, like a API call, where the component has no control over the result of that. So you want to keep that in an enclosed place. You want to keep that in one place. You want to make sure that that side effect doesn't affect the whole component. It only affects the parts that you want it to affect. So that's what we're going to learn today, how to control that, how to control the changes that happen when you have a side effect. Okay, so to start with, we will learn this word, use effect. Use effect is a hook, and it's right here. Use effect is not use effect. Effect, what's it called? yeah, use effect. So use effect is a React hook, just like what's our use state. So we learned use state where you use that to render the state of the app. Use effect is another hook, and there are several hooks. This is not the only hook, the only two hooks. There are many of them, but these are the most used ones, and we talked about it on the first lecture, I think. So what does use effect? What does it do? So let's actually Google it. Use effect React. We want to find a specific description of what it is. Let's see. Okay, so here is what is the use for use effect, and here's what is use effect. Use effect is a hook encapsulating code that has a side effect. That's what we said, like a code that has a side effect, meaning a code that the component has no control over. It could happen, it could not happen. It doesn't know what is going to happen. And it's like combination of component that did mount. So we didn't learn class-based React. So class-based React, it has things called component that did mount, component did update, and component will unmount. So these are like functions that already built into the class-based React, where you can track if the component mounted, basically if the component is started, if the component updated, basically did you change anything from the component, or if the component unmounted, basically if the component is started running. So that's a brief description of what use effect is. So let's get started, and let's start a new React. Let's start a new React thing. So we're going to start a new React app. I'm going to open the terminal. I'm going to go to the folder that I want to install stuff in. So let me zoom in the commands so you guys can see clearly. So now we're going to cd into pictures, cd into Gabi, and then here's where we're going to create. So we're going to use normal React creation. So we did this several times, so you guys know already how to do this. So you say mbx create React app, and then you give it a name. So we'll call this we'll call it effect. It's going to go ahead and create the component of the React for us, and then after that we're gonna clean things up so that we can get started and build build something. We're going to be using a API, and we're going to call this API. So let me find the name of it. It's called Jubilee, I think Jubilee. Studio Jubilee. So this is just a basic API. Now this, we call it API. It's gonna give us like a free API that we can play around with, and it's gonna render like movies. So it has movies. It's a movies studio, so it's gonna render movies. This is the base for the API. We can use this API. So Jubilee API.herokuapp.com/films, and then it's gonna render movies for us. So that's what we're gonna use today to render. And also in your assignment, you're going to be using NASA API. So keep that in mind too. Make sure that you understand how to render an API and render the data from the API. So that will be a task tomorrow. So now our app is rendered. Our app is complete. We're gonna cd into it. So we're gonna say effect, and then we're gonna open it in VS Code. We can close this, we don't need it. So here we have our React app started. So let's clean things up. So you guys already know how the React app looks like. So we're gonna go in here, we're gonna delete a couple of things. Let's delete this test. We don't need it. Let's delete this report. Also, the app is gonna break because we have to remove them from the from app.js. So let's remove all this. We don't need this. Let's go to index. Let's remove this. And let's remove this too. So usually this is how you kind of clean up your app, because you don't want something that you're not going to use to be rendered. So we don't need the logo here. And also we don't need all this to be shown. Okay, so we're just gonna put here h2. I'm gonna call it movies. Save it, and then let's start. So we're gonna start right here. We're gonna say npm start. It's gonna go to the other screen, I think. No, it opened here. It's good. Okay, so it's just gonna say movies. So that's our app today. Let's close. We might need it. We need to install a couple of packages, but we can close it for now. So to get started, we need to set up our app so that it shows the movies. First, we're gonna render the movies. It's not gonna have any styling, and then we're gonna use React Strap to render it. Okay, React Strap to kind of like style it and make it look nice. So now all we need now is a couple of things. First, I want to grab the link for the logo, the Jubilee logo. So let me just grab that. I'm just gonna paste it here. It's just a link that I grabbed from internet. So this is the logo link. And then now we're gonna create we're gonna keep this div. We can get rid of this movies. So here we're gonna add the image, which will have, we can give it a class name of, we have to create this logo. And then we're gonna give it a source. That source would be this variable, so logo. Okay. And also we have to give it alt, otherwise it's gonna give us error. We can actually see how that looks like. It's gonna give us an error. No, it's not gonna give us error. Okay, that's good. But it's best to give an alt, because even if you look at the inspect here, it's giving us an issue here, as you can see. It's just a warning, it's not an error. So just give it alt of whatever whatever the logo is. So we're just gonna call it logo here. Save. And so when we save it, it gets rid of that warning thing. So this is a logo for that API. So the next thing is we need to create a couple of components, at least 2 components to render the movies. And then after that, we'll do the styling. Can you guys hear me? Is everything good? I just don't want to keep going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. All right. So now we're just going to create a couple of components here. So we're going to say source. We're going to say components. And by this time, you guys are used to this style of creating components and then putting other components in here. So we're going to create one called movie. We're going to call it movie list.js. And the other one, we're going to call it movie card.js. So these will render the movies. This will have a list of all the movies, and this will render each movie specifically. Okay, so now the next thing is we need to import the movie list in an app.js, but first we have to create it. So the first step will be here, but we still not done yet. So I'm gonna create the first step here. So I'm gonna say, so let's put a comment here so you guys can see. So let me put a comment, star that. So this would be step 1. So we'll say this import, or we'll say import movie list component. Okay, so the import and render here. Okay, so we would need to import it and render it here. So we're gonna import it up there. So before we do that, let's put something in here. So this will be step 2. Create a movie list component using ICE. Okay, so ICE is an acronym I came up with. So ICE stands for imports, component, and export. So you don't forget the steps of what you need to do. So that'll be second step. We also need to in this component, we need to do step 3, which is grab the API, and we're going to grab the API, and also we're going to grab the API and use effect to render the API. Okay, so that'll be a third step. But also we need to grab something to use. Who remembers what we need to use? What package do we need to use to render API? Do you guys remember?
Axios.
Axios, yeah. So Axios. So step 4 would be import Axios to render the API. Not render, we already said that. Oh, it's a render, I guess. Render the API. Import and use Axios. Okay, so we're going to use Axios to grab the API, and also we're going to put the Axios inside. We're going to put the Axios inside use effect. So that will be something to keep in mind. So we'll see all that stuff. But before that, we just need to create the component itself. So first step is import React from React. That's the first step. And then we can create the function. You could use arrow function, you could use normal function, it doesn't matter. So this one is going to be movie list, and then return. Then you return JSX. So here we're just going to return a diff for now. We're gonna give it, we're gonna say something like, let's give it a P movies will show here. So they will show here, but also we'll be using the movie card. But here we'll say all movies. Let's say all movies will be shown here. But then if you want to, we're going to show specific ones. We're going to create a card for each one of them. So that's going to be the card. So just for now. And the last one is export. So don't forget to export. Export default movie list. Okay. So that's good. Now nothing is shown still because we didn't import the component. So let's say import. And here, let's just, for the sake of it, let's import. It's usually React usually knows that app.js is the parent component, so it doesn't give the import React automatically. So here we're going to say import React from React. Also, we're going to import movie list from. How do we grab movie list? You can tell me.
Dot slash.
Dot slash. Okay.
And then component.
And then after that,
slash
movie list. Okay. So now we grab the movie list. How do we render movie list inside here?
Whereas at step 1, you do you do like the div beside, like the way you open it, the way it's like a div, and you write movie list.
And then movie list. Okay. All right. And then we close it itself, right? Like that. So that's how we render. So if we save now, it should show all movies show here. That's because we're showing this text through app.js. So now we're rendering that. So that's good. So we have that. The next step, so this was the first step, which we did right now. We finished the first step. The second step is create movie component. We did this. The third step is grab API using use effect. And then these two go together. So we have to import Axios somehow. So we're going to import Axios. To import Axios, we need to use the terminal, right? To grab it. Right now, if we look at our package.json, it has dependencies here, which are the packages we're going to use, but there's no Axios in here. So always make sure that when you want to use a package, it's in here, somewhere in here. So to do that, we can open the terminal, and then we're just going to say npm install Axios. And how did I know this command? I think I talked about this before. If we go back to here and just look for install Axios, right? So it shows you here. This is the npm website, the Node package manager. This is where we grab all our packages from. As you can see, just this week, this is how many downloads Axios had. So it's pretty active thing. So if you go down, it shows you here, npm install Axios. There's different ways to install it. If you have a yarn, this is how you install it. You could also put it in your HTML header. So in your index.html, you could just grab this and put it in there. It will work the same way. There's so many ways to do it. So now, if we go back to the editor, so we're just gonna say enter, and it's gonna go ahead and grab it, and it's right there already. All right, so now we have Axios. So let's import Axios. Import Axios from Axios. Okay. Another thing we need to do is using use effect. We have to use the same way as we used use state. So how do we put that? So the same way as use state when it comes to importing it. Who remembers that?
You create a
in which line do we put it in to import it?
Right before the function.
Right before the function, right here.
Yeah.
So we say import use effect. Is that how we do it? Remember, use effect is part of React. So if it's part of React, how do we import it?
you go that line where between import and React, and then you comma after React, comma.
Okay, comma here.
And you copy that line and put it right there.
Okay, so we put a curly bracket here, and we say use effect, right? So that's how we bring in use effect. It's just like use state. So if you also want to use use state, you just put it here, use state, right? Because these are part of React, and we're just grabbing them from React. Okay, so now we're actually going to use state too. So we're gonna grab that too. So now let's go back to here. Nothing is showing because we didn't import anything. We didn't change anything from the component. So this is the component where we're gonna use the use effect. So to render the API, we're gonna do the same way we did before, axios.get and then .then. We're gonna use the same thing, but we have to put it inside the use effect. The reason why we need to put in use effect, and this is how you do it before we say use effect, and then after that you just say use effect itself is it's a built-in function, so you don't have to put anything function before it. The React already knows how to use it, and within here we put a callback function. You could use arrow function if you want, and then inside this is where we put the Axios. So inside here, use effect is interesting because it has a property where it runs only when the component is rendered. So the first time the component is rendered, that's when it runs. But at this time, right now, how it is, it will keep running. It will just keep repeating all the time. So if we go back to the use effect here, as you can see here, this is the first step of creating it. But the problem is it will just keep repeating the same thing. It will go into a loop. So if you want that not to happen, you have to give it another property, which is, where is it? Detailed explanation, not this one. Yeah, so you have to give it another property. I don't know why it's not shown here. You have to give it another property. It's in our lesson. If you go back to our lesson, where is it? Yeah. So if we go back to our lesson here, this is the first step. But then if you want to make it so that it doesn't keep running, doesn't loop everything, you have to give it this second property, which is an empty array. The reason why we give the empty array is use effect has it's in the DOM. So every time it runs in the DOM, but you want to know, you want to keep track of like how it changes. So let's say you have something that changes in your browser, in your DOM, and you want that thing to change every time. Let's say the API changes or someone enters the data, you want that to change. So this second property will help you so that you could put, let's say this count changes, someone changes the count. If you put the count here, the count itself, the state, if you put it right there, it will use effect will say, oh, there's some change, so I'm gonna run it again. I'm gonna run the effect again. So it comes in handy later on when we're like rendering a lot of stuff. But right now, it's best to just put this empty array in there so that you don't run into a loop. So that's why we need to put that there. So right here, we just have to put an empty array. Right now, it's not useful for us, but it is. It's gonna come in usefully later on when you're working with a bigger project. So, but right now the main important is if you don't put that, it could go into a loop, and you don't want that to happen. So right inside here, we're gonna do our Axios. So we're just gonna say Axios.get, and we need to just go grab the API, which was right here. So I think this is it. That's all we need. And we're gonna go back here. We're just gonna put it right there. And then we're just gonna say .then. So right here, .then. So whatever comes back from the API, if you remember, will go into this .then, the first one. So and the first one has a callback function. So we're gonna say we're gonna give it a name. So a parameter. We're gonna call it res. And we're gonna run this. So now in here, we could just say console log, not that, console log res, right? That's the only thing we have. Right now we have this, but it's best to also add .catch. So let's add the .catch here. And it has a callback function here. So we're gonna call it error. And this will have, we could just give it that and say, no, we could just console log it right here. Let's console log the error. Okay, so now we have the basic setup for the for our Axios. And if you don't remember this, maybe you could go back to previous lessons when we were doing the Axios. We did it in JavaScript. So the last lessons of I think it was last lessons. All right, let's go back to our app here. So now nothing's shown here because we send it to the console log. So right here, as you can see, we have object. This object has a bunch of stuff. Remember, if you want to inspect an API call, is you just keep reading it and you're looking for something like data, response, something like that. So right here, we're just gonna open the data. As you can see, it has an ID, it has a title of a movie, original title, which is, I think that's Japanese. And then if we open it, a lot of information about the movie. We have the director, we have like another link to people, probably people who are involved, release date, all that stuff. So we're just gonna grab a couple of things from there, but the main important thing is to understand, to read your data. So whatever you get back, always read it and understand what it's trying to say. So that's very important. All right. Any questions about how we use the use effect? Any questions? Keep in mind that the use effect is a way to keep anything that has a side effect, like the API has a side effect. Why does it have side effect? For example, if we miss the S here, we're not gonna have any data. So we're gonna have an error. So it's just gonna say, oops, error. That is a side effect. That is something that we don't want to happen in our application. So we want to keep it in one place. Remember that functional components are pure functions. When I say pure functions, I mean, I don't know why this is imported. When I say pure functions, I mean they give you what you give them. So whatever you put in there, it will just render that. It's not gonna change anything. It's not gonna multiply anything. It's not gonna do anything you didn't ask it to do. So React components, functional components, are pure functions. So they return exactly what you expect them to return, except when you have an API, something like API, where you don't know what's gonna come back. You don't control the API, the backend most of the time. So you want to put that in a use effect, and use effect gives you a way to keep that in an enclosed area, so you don't have to worry about it you don't have to worry about it affecting the rest of your application. A lot of times what happens is, let's say you have an API, the API maybe sends a data that you weren't expecting. So right now we're expecting it's returning 21 items. Imagine you created a application and you expected that 21 things to come back all the time from this API. And then someone in this website went ahead and updated the API and put it to 20 million items. Right now, like at that moment, your application crashes because you don't have that capacity to take care of all that items. It's gonna crash. So that's what I mean by side effects. You don't want that to happen. So you put it in here, and you could also put a conditions in here, which we will learn another time, where you could say, okay, I want only this thing to happen. I want to have only 20 items. I don't want to have more than 20 items, and it will render that. Of course, you could put it somewhere in here if a statement, but that could also might not even work. You might not have something that you might think of something, but then something else might happen. Let's say in your if statement, you're expecting a number to come back, and the website, they updated and they made it like an object, and now you're screwed because you don't have you're not getting what you expected. So we have the data. Now all we need to do is render here. So to do that, we need to grab the movie card. We need to render each specific movie in all this 1, 2, 3. We need to render it in the card. So we need to set up the card too. So, and we have to loop through the data too. We have to go ahead and loop through here. But let's create the card. So what was the last step for? Let's create here. Step 5.
Don't forget to add the films, as I think you deleted.
Oh yeah, I did. Thank you. So step 5. create movie card component. We could use the eyes, and then here in the movie card, we need to also we need to pass props. So step 6 would be make sure to pass props. Okay, pass props from. So we're gonna pass props from the movie list component. All right. Another thing we need to do is, so that's what we need to do, and then we need to render those. We need to render those props so that they show properly. So step 7 would be render the data from the props. Okay, so let's get started. Let's import React from React function movie, and go a little quicker this one, movie card, and then function return. We're gonna return just a basic div. So here we're gonna say like h3 movie cards here. It's always best to just render something so that you know that that this component is rendering. Otherwise, you'll be expecting it to work, but then you don't even see it. It's working. Let's export default movie card. Okay, so that's a basic component. Now we have to import it here because we need to send the data from here, a prop to movie card. Okay, so we say import movie card from movie card. Why don't we have components here? Who can explain to me? Like, why don't we have like components / movie card? Why is it not like that?
Because you're already in the components folder.
Yes. So we're already in the components folder. So when we say / it's just going to show what's next to us. So right there, that's how we know. And here we're just going to do our mapping. So we're going to map through, or actually before that, we have to create a state. So I think that's one thing we forgot. So here, let's write a little comment here. Okay, we're going to say create a state to store the films. Okay. So our state, we can call it whatever, but it's best to just call it whatever the data is. And this data is films. So, and then we can say set films. And how do we how do we use use state? What do we put here? Who remembers? So we're trying to use state to grab this information, put it in the state.
Use state and
Parentheses.
Okay. Who can guess what can we put here as a default?
Axios.
Axios.
0.
So right now, okay. So here's the thing. Axios is right here. It's grabbing the data for us from this API. But use state, if we put Axios here, Axios is a package. It's gonna get confused. There's no data in here. It's just a package. This package is basically getting the information. So what we need to do is we need to find a way to, our information is a REST, right? That's where our information is, the movie list is stored. So we need to find a way to take REST and put it in the state. So we need to make it the films. So we need to take this data, put it in here. And so before we do any of that, we need to make sure, so the initial state of our, are we doing this? Okay, we're doing it in movie list. I thought we were doing it in movie card. So our initial state could be just an empty array, right? One second, give me a second. I had a sneeze coming up. So we could just put an empty array, and then we could fill that array with this data. So we could just pass everything in here. So let me draw something so you guys understand a little bit better with that. So our data is right here. This is our data. Wait, I didn't grab that. A pencil. Where's the pencil? Why is it not drawing? Okay. Okay. Yeah. So let me erase that and draw it again. This is strange. Draw. Okay. Draw normal line. Okay, this is this is getting out of control. Okay, let me erase that. Let me restart the whole thing. Close it. I'm trying to get the drawing. It used to be easier. Okay. Draw in that. Yep. So this is our data. The rest is coming from here. Now we need to take this and put it right here in films. And remember that when we're trying to change the state, how do we change this state? How do we change it? What do you guys think?
Change the value of the set films.
Yeah. So set films, the only job for set films or any set, like if you have a state, it's usually just a set. The only job it has is to change this. So if you want to update this or add something to it or change something from it, you have to use set films. You cannot use anything else. You cannot say push. So you will be attempted to use push because that's how you add something to an array. So we could have just said like grab films and then dot push and then give this rest. And then that'll be your attempt. But when it comes to React, especially in the state, you use set state to change the state. Okay. Any questions about that? How we're gonna do that? We're gonna go ahead and do it.
So what about the use state? Why do you put it like nothing in there, like the bracket?
So
what
the
does that
reason
indicate?
So the reason why we put an empty array there is it's expecting some data to come in. So if we put 0 here, it's expecting a number to come in, right?
Okay.
It's expecting like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever number, an integer, positive or negative, to come in and replace that 0. If we put in a object here, it's expecting an object to come in, right? So now our data is an array because we're gonna loop through it. We're gonna have a map here, so we already know that it's an array, and it's right here. It says array here. So this is our data, and it just says array. So that's why we put an empty array there to just prepare the use state for what's coming, basically. So to do that, we need to use the set films to just basically put all this data in right here. So we're going to use set films to push that information there. So we're going to say set films. And now set films, we're going to put here the data, which is rest.data, right? So now, basically, we took all the data from the rest, which is rest.data is this, and we put it in here. So now if we actually console log just films, let's console log. This is films, which is the state. You will see that we have that data. So let's actually clear that and save it again. It's giving us an issue. It's not defined. Films.
I think they move the card.
Move card. No, it should show here. This component is shown in here. It's in here. So we added a console log here. It's not rendering. It says movie card is defined but not never used. That's fine. If you see this color image, it's just a warning. It's not going to stop your program. We're not rendering movie card yet, so we're just sending this. So now, so we're rendering films.
Refresh.
Refresh. Oh, here. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So we refresh. So as you can see, so here is where the rendering stuff comes. The first time the component rendered, it showed an empty array, which is right here. The first time there was nothing, and then it went ahead and used this set films, and the use effect run. So we can actually console log here, and you will know when use effect runs. Use effect, let's say use effect run. Okay, so if we save it, let's actually save that and refresh it. As you can see here, this is our state. It's empty first, and the use effect runs, and then now the state has all the data that we were expecting it to have. Did that make sense? The use effect runs after the state runs, right? But then the state is like, oh, I have more information. Now I'm gonna run again, right? Well, it didn't run. This is our console log, but that's kind of like the expectation. It checks the use effect, and it says, oh, there's information here, and I see that set films has some data. So let me just put this data right here, right? Hopefully that makes some sense. So now we have all the data in our state, which is here. All we need to do is we need to render it. To render it, we have to map over films. So we use a basic mapping. So we're just gonna say films dot map, and then use callback function. And this callback function will have, we're just gonna say film, and we're gonna return. So we're gonna return the data. So film is each film, and each film we want to show it in card. So the movie card should have one film at a time. So that's why we're mapping over it. So now right here we have to return the movie card component. So we already have it here. We imported it. So we're just gonna do that, and also we have to pass a prop, right? So how do we pass a prop, and what prop do we pass here? Okay, who remembers?
Film equals,
Yep, film equals. Okay,
and then film, and then bracket,
and then film.
film,
Okay, good. So that's what we need to pass.
and then close it.
Yeah, close it. Because we're passing the data. So we're passing each film that we render here. So this film 0, we pass it one time, 1, we pass it one time, and they all go to movie card. Yeah, so we'll keep it at that. It will give us error because we need to have a key, but for now, let's just keep it simple like that. So now nothing is still rendering because we need to render. As you can see, actually, the movie card component is rendering, and it's rendering 21 times, right? It's rendering 21 times. Why is it rendering 21 times? Who knows that?
It's 21 already.
We have 21,
Uh-huh.
yeah. We have 21 items. We have 21 movies, right? So we have 21 movies, and it's rendering 21 times. And remember that the movie component is inside the map, which is actual for loop. So you're basically looping 21 times the component. So in here, we need to pass the props, right? And we're taking a lot of time, but I just want to finish this part of rendering the data. And then after that, we can go into styling, right? It's going to look really ugly, but we just want to leave it at that and then come back for styling when we take a break. So here we need to pass the props here. props. So who can tell me what the props are? Exactly what are the props? Like what are we getting from here if we console log it? So let's console log it. Yeah, go ahead.
The movie list.
The movie list, yeah. So props is the movie list. Who can expand it? How did we get the props here? Just call it props and then we get the movie list? How does that even work? So if we cancel log, see, as you can see, props. So each prop is a movie, a single movie. So each prop is carrying a movie, and the movie is called film. So that's our prop. Our prop is film, right? So basically, the reason why we're getting all this is because we passed it here. So we said, okay, movie card, hey movie card component, which is this. I have information for you. And in React, when you take a component and you import the component and then you pass something to it, React automatically says that is a prop. Like that's how React actually works. And I can show you in the like underneath the hood, but that will take some time. But basically, every time you have a component that is being rendered with inside another component and you pass something next to it, like right after it, React automatically assigns that as a prop. And then if you use the keyword prop here, you could actually use whatever you want. It doesn't have to be props. But that's kind of like if someone else is working on this application, they will know that's a props that's being passed from somewhere else, right? So we have the props. We want to do some destructuring because we need to grab several things from here. So we need to do a destructuring. We don't want to keep typing props everywhere. So who remembers how do we do destructuring? We just want to grab film from props. Okay, so we're just going to say const, and then we have curly bracket, and then we're going to put here film, basically the only prop that we passed, which is this. And then we're going to say equal to props. So now we can just use a film instead of props.film everywhere. So we need to render a couple of things here. We need to render the movie title, the movie description, the director, and the release date. Okay. So right here, if we open one, we wanna grab the description, the director, the release date, which is this, and then the movie title, which is where's the movie title? Right here, title. So I'm gonna grab those. So let's just start with the H2, and this would be the title. So we're gonna give it the title. So we're gonna say you could give a fake information here. You could just say title, and then the next would be description. So that you could just replace it. Description will be P. So we're gonna say description. Here we're gonna pass a director. So that's gonna be P. And the last one is release date. So that's all we need. Release date. So now if we save this, and we go back to our thing, as you can see, we have title, description, director, release date, and then title, . So we're just gonna replace that with actual data. So here's the title. How do we grab something from film? Yeah. What do we do to show the title of the film, which is just the title, which is right here, title.
This the title.
S, you said S or film, or you said this title?
This the title.
Within the parenthesis. Yep. Yeah.
Within the curly
Bracket.
brackets. Okay. Do you guys agree on that? remember this is a functional component. So if we want to use this, we have to have a class component, right?
Mhm.
So we have a functional component, so we have to we cannot use this. But you're right about the title, but we have to put something before it.
Film.title.
Film.title, yeah. So we have the film here already. We just put film.title, and that will render the title of the film. I mean, we didn't save it. Save, and it's going to show the title for each movie, right? Now we're just going to do the same thing for the rest. Here we're just going to say film dot description. Hopefully the spelling is correct. And here we're just going to say we're going to keep that director, because it's a it's a name. Who knows what that is? It could be something else. So we're going to say film dot director, and here release date, we're going to keep that too. We're going to say film dot, and then you have to go back to the data to see how that's actually written. So it's a release underscore date.
And director is producer.
As a producer, okay. So that's very important to look at the data, and this is the director I'm looking for. You could add the producer if you want, but
Okay.
I was looking for the director, so you could add the producer if you like. So now if we save it, and we go back to here, you can see each movie, the description, the director, and the release date of each movie. So you have all the, probably this is 21, hopefully. We have all the movies. Any questions? Any questions so far?
Is there a video link in it?
A video link? There could be. We could inspect the data. Let's see if they have it. So this is the data we have. They have a location. Hopefully that's another API. They have species. They have URL, which I don't know what that is. So you could just inspect it. You could just see, say, go in there. URL. Probably the URL of the movie, maybe. I'm not sure. They don't have a video. So usually you could go to other websites and there's a lot of film or movies APIs. And if they have a movie, if they have a video link, you could also render that too, so that it shows that shows the video at the front. So that's also option. Okay. So now we rendered all the movie data. Any questions so far? I want to give you the time. Think of the main thing we need to learn today is the use effect. The rest, we're going to keep repeating it. The use state, this is going to happen all the time because you need to have a state for each application. But the use effect is really, really important to learn. Any questions of how any of this stuff works together? We put everything. We put the first thing in the app.js. We put the rest of the stuff in rendering the API and all that stuff in the movie list, and then we pass all the data that we rendered to movie card, and the movie card renders each card, which is this is a card, this is a card, and we're going to use a Bootstrap and React strap to render cards. So we're gonna make it look nice. So I will take a break. If you have any question, just write it down somewhere. I saw someone wrote a question for me here. Can we get access to the node? Yeah. So I will, after we finish this, I will send the, I'll put this in GitHub and you could have access to this. So we'll take a break, 10 minutes, and then come back and do this styling. So when will the use effect stop? So the use effect, so that's another question. So when will the use effect stop? The use effect stops, basically stops right away when it runs only once now, and then it stops. So there is a way to, there's difference between the use effect is stopping and cleaning up the use effect. We will learn that too. We'll touch on that. So you have to clean up the use effect, meaning whatever you render here, it's going to be on the DOM like forever, unless you clean your cache or history or stuff. It's going to be on the DOM. And let's say if you have a lot of use effects running in your application, your website is going to slow down. The application is going to slow down. So we're going to learn how to clean it up. So I don't want to forget that. So let me just write it here. How to clean up use effect. Okay, so we're gonna write it here, and then we're gonna go over it. So cleaning up means basically remove that node or that DOM that you created using the use effect from the browser. So we'll just do that. But the use effect just stops right when it renders. When this data renders and everything is complete, it basically stops. There's different ways to know, but we'll hopefully go over later. All right. Let me know any other question later. I will go over it. Just write it down, and then when we come back, I can just we can answer all of them. 10-minute timer. All right. I'll see you guys soon. Okay, let's get back to it. Okay, let's get back to it. Everyone. I'll just send a message. Some people are here. All right. Let me put this here. It's fine. I'm just gonna put it down. Okay. So, so question, the API we're using of the data is the same as the assignment we did on a GitHub cards information. So the API we're using right now is this API. But if you mean that like exactly the implementation, like how we're implementing it here, it is the same way as the GitHub cards. Yes. So it's the same way. We're just not changing anything. So the only thing is we're putting it inside the use effect. So it's the same thing. But this one is different. So when you say API, the API is this link. So that's what the API is. But if you mean like the Axios and the implementation, yes, it's the same. All right, let's get back to it. So, so our application is great. I mean, it looks bad, but it's rendering the information we need. So we need to style it. So we need to learn something called React strap, if this lets me. React strap right here. Need to move this somewhere else. So React strap is it's a bootstrap kind of like implementation of React. So you could use normal bootstrap. So actually, so before we actually get into that, let me explain the how to unmount or how to remove a use effect from this what do you call, from the DOM, okay? Because we have it here in our lesson. So in our basically in our implementation, like what are we doing right now, there's not much of use for it to remove. Like for example, our API, we call the API and it's done calling. But let's see another example that's different. Let's see this example. So this is Code Sandbox. It's another project. So this basically, what is it doing? Is basically it's rendering a what do you call event listener. So we have add event listener here. It's rendering that. So we're taking the add event listener. The result of it, we're putting it in the state, and then we're rendering it right here in our JSX. So now if we take our mouse and we go to the browser, it has basically the X and Y location of our mouse. So this is interesting. But the reason why I'm showing you this example is because there is a cleanup here. So we implemented that. We implemented the event listener right here, but we need to, like, every time we stop or remove the mouse, we need to stop these changes. So we don't want these changes to keep going when we move our mouse out of the browser. So the browser is going to keep that 976 like until you remove it. It's going to keep that. Even if you refresh it, it's going to keep it in the memory. So to remove that, we have to return a anonymous function right here. So return an anonymous function within the use effect. And then we're just going to do whatever it takes to remove that. So this one is event listener. to remove event listener in JavaScript, you just say remove event listener. And then you give what the event listener is, and then also the function that you run. So this is a function we run when we're trying to run. So this is the function we run one that does this job. So that's how you remove it. So you do return inside the use effect, and then after that you give it a you make sure that you remove that. So let's say other things. Let's say you have something like a for loop, or you're mapping over something. You want to stop that, so you want to put you want to put like some type of logic that removes the operation of that for loop, basically. So that's pretty much it for removing the use effect from the DOM. All right, so let's go back to the styling. I think everyone is back. That's good. Let's go back to styling. Yeah, go ahead.
So if you're trying to, you see how the mouse is moving it. So if you're trying to move, like, so the use effect is after, like, when you're not into the box, the white box that is implementing it. And
Yeah,
you
so-
say if you want to
go
remove
ahead.
the event listener. So you say if you want to remove the event listener, you just like say remove event listener, and then you just implement it. What are you actually trying to?
So if we go to the internet and look for remove event listener, what it does basically, this is what it does. Event remove listener method removes from the event tag an event listener previously registered with a event listener. The event listener to be removed is identified using a combination of event type. Blah, blah. So basically what it's doing is it's when we do this, when we hover over it, we create a event listener. We add event listener to the browser. So the cache of the browser, the DOM system, we add an event listener. So
Correct.
that's what happens. And then if we want to remove that, if we are outside of, like, let's say React, if we're outside of React, then the browser, the JavaScript cleans it up. So JavaScript automatically removes the add event listener for you. But when we are inside the React, we're using something called virtual DOM. And the virtual DOM, as you can see it somewhere here. Where is it? The virtual DOM is right here. This DOM, it registers that. It registers the add event listener, but it doesn't remove it automatically like React does, like JavaScript does. I mean, JavaScript has a system that cleans everything up for you automatically. But React, you have to kind of like, especially if you use the use effect, you have to make sure that it's cleaned up after you. So you have to do that manually. A lot of times you don't have to, especially let's say when you're calling for API, because the API is basically a data. So it's not making a changes to the DOM most of the time. It's only we're only rendering the data from the API. So you don't have a lot of issues with that. But most of the time, if you're doing something like manipulation of let's say the DOM itself, especially here, mouse click, hover, all that stuff, it's best to just remove it after that. Any questions? And you're not going to see this a lot, so don't worry about it. If you didn't get it right now, later you could practice it, but you're not going to see this a lot. React and JavaScript, they're very smart. So people who created are smart. So they clean after you. You don't have to worry about it. Okay, so let's go back to the styling, right? Because our app it looks really bad. So styling, we could use React Strap and also Bootstrap together. So React Strap is built on top of Bootstrap. So as you can see here, it says easy use React Bootstrap for components. So it took a Bootstrap and it converted to like React basically by making it like components. So if we want to use that, we have to install it, right? So this is how we install that. We just need to install this. We don't need to install anything. So we're just gonna go here, copy this. You could use safe, --safe. That's another way of installing it, but that's a globe if you want to install it globally. So here we're gonna go npm install React Strap. It's gonna go ahead and put it in our list of packages. So it's right here. All right. So now, what we need to do is we need to make sure so that we have cards. So these are cards. So how do we make these cards? We go to React Strap, we go to components, and we look for card. So we're just gonna go here, we have card here. But before we do that, we need to make sure that each card is lined up. Like, you know how React we have, I don't know if you guys know anything about Bootstrap. We haven't studied a lot about Bootstrap, but Bootstrap is it uses Flexbox. We learned Flexbox. So Bootstrap has layout, something called layout. So if we go to here, Bootstrap, this is Bootstrap, the docs, and we go to layout. They have this type of layout, grid. So they have this type of layout, so you can make it into like smaller, three columns, and you can make it into like 2 columns by just making it so that you use different types of what do you call names. So this one we use row and column. So this is the row, and we have 2 columns. You could define specifically how big the layout is, and most of the time what you're looking for is 12. So the whole width of the thing is 12, and then if you want to divide it, let's say if you want to divide it to 3, it's 12 divided by 3, so it's 4, 4, 4. There's also breaking points and things like that. So there's these different types of breaking points. You have XM, XS, which is the smallest. That's like a mobile. You have an SM, which is also mobile. You have MD, which is mostly for tablets. You have a large LG, which is for desktops, larger desktops, and XXL, which is even larger. So if you're trying to use these width and all that, you have to use this class container, and then you use class row for a row. So row is like horizontal, and then a column is these columns. You could specify exactly how big the column is. As you can see here, this column is 8. So to specify that, this is how you type it, how you write it. So let me zoom that in. To specify how big the one column is, you say class column -8. So this is 8, basically out of the 12 is 8 here. And then the rest is just 4, so it's right here. So you cannot go above the 12. So you have to, if you want to divide anything, you just have to go inside the 12. There's a column SM 8. Remember, SM is small, so the width, that's kind of like the width that you're trying to work with, and the numbers are at the top. So I would say practice more like Bootstrap. It will help you a lot, especially if you want to build a project from scratch. You could just start with it. Remember when we were learning CSS, we didn't use Bootstrap. The reason for that was because we didn't want it to, I didn't want you guys to not know CSS and go into Bootstrap. Bootstrap is built on top of CSS. So now you know CSS, Bootstrap is going to come really easy. Okay, so these are all different options. All we need is we need to show like maybe 2 columns. So we're going to divide it into like 6, 6, and then we're going to go from there. So what we need to do is we're going to go back to React Strap, and also React Strap also has a layout itself. So we're going to go to here. As you can see, the layout is exactly the same as Bootstrap. Now, if we want to use the layout, like the container, we have to import it like this. So it gives you the code. So right here, this is how you import it. But before we do all that, we have to put our, we have to grab Bootstrap, and it gives you that too. So if you go all the way down, it says here you have to put this link inside your index.js, source index.js. So you're just gonna grab this link, which is a way for React to render Bootstrap underneath. So I have to go here, index.js, and just put it right here, like that. So React is doing all that work. It's doing all that for us. It already rendered, it already grabbed the Bootstrap for us. So all we need to do is that. From here on, we're just gonna say import from here on. So let's go back to the layout. So the layout, we need to grab container, we need to grab row, and we need to grab column, right? But we're gonna divide it so that app.js, so app.js has the container. Movie list has the row, and then the cards, they have their own specific column. So let's go back to here, and we're just gonna import that. But we need only the container, so we can just get rid of this. So now instead of this upper div, we can use the container. And also the container has to be capital C, because that's how we're importing it. Container. Now if we save it and go back to the app, it's not working. So it said this module is not, it's not there. Cannot solve that. Okay. In RC, but okay, so we have an issue with this. Import that. Let me see. Okay. So did we import everything? Did we install everything? So let's double check that. So sometimes if you have an issue, make sure you installed everything they ask you to install. So we need to React all this. So let's just install it like this, the way they ask us for. It's probably for a reason. Okay, let's save it like that. Okay, so let's see if that solved the issue. Sometimes you might need to restart your project because it might be a big change for your application. So restart. Okay, so it's still giving us the issue. Module not found in here. Bootstrap, okay, and that.
The index, isn't it supposed to be index.css or the import that you just did it?
We put it in index.js because that's where they ask us to put it in.
Does it need from?
So it's right here. They said put it in index.js. Also we need to install Bootstrap too. Forget that. So we need to install Bootstrap. Let's go back here. Let's just open a new and install that. So that hopefully that will solve it. Okay, that created a new problem. Okay. So it solved that. And also, as you can see here, it kind of pushed from sides because we added a container, right? So if we go back to app.js, we added a container, so it pushed from sides. Now we're gonna add another thing. We're gonna add a row. Instead of this div, we're gonna use a row. So let's grab the same thing here and change it to a row. And also always is capital when it comes to React strap. So change this to a row. Okay, save it. As you can see, it made everything row. You cannot see now, but it changed to everything. Each one of them is a row now. If we go to movie card, we need to add the rest of the stuff. So now in movie card, we need to go to here, reactor strap, and go to the card because we want to show a card for each movie, right? And also we're missing one more thing, which is we need to show a column here. So instead of the div, we need to show a column. So let's copy this and change it to a column. So column is a call, and the div becomes call. This becomes call too. So save it, go back to the app. As you can see, each one of them, it made a column. But now there's no specification because if we move it down, it's gonna automatically adjust, but it's showing as much as it can. And we don't want that because the text is too big. So we need to define how big is the column, okay? We need to define that. So we're gonna say XS is equal to 6. We want each column to be 6, to be half. We just need 2 cards basically. So we're gonna divide it into half, as you can see. So it gave us half. So you have 2 cards, two columns here so far. So after this, all we need to do is we need to put all this in a card so that it shows a little bit better. It aligns everything better. So if we go back to React Strap, there's different types of cards. There's this card with the image at the beginning, and then has a title. There's this card. There's a title at the top, and then the image. There's a lot of them. So we just need to pick one that matches a little bit with our thing. We could pick this one, or yeah, I think the one we just saw is a little bit matches with what we look for because it has a header, and we could use that as the movie title, and then we can use this rest for the information of the movie. So let's use that. So if you want to use that, we need to like import all this stuff. We don't want the button, and we don't want the footer, although the footer it's not even showing. So in here, we're gonna we have React Strap, so all we need to do is we need to just grab all these things and put it inside here. So comma, put it here, and it's gonna sometimes it's gonna align for you, so it's best for it to be like this, all that like that. So if you have some type of outline thing there's extension that you use so they can align for you everything automatically. So now let's just make this a card. And the way to make it is we have to use it like this. So this is the card we're trying to use. So we're just gonna grab this data, this card, and we're just gonna put it right here and then just replace it. As you can see, it doesn't look good, but we're gonna replace everything. We don't want the footer, and we don't want the button, but we want the rest. So, okay. So header, we're just gonna replace with the title right here. This special thing, we're gonna replace it with, I wish we had like a second title or something like that, but it's fine. We don't even need this special thing. So I'm just gonna use the text. Let me make this drop. Okay, so here we're gonna use the description of the movie. Where is it? Description. We also need another one, another card, text. Okay, card text. We're gonna put this the director right here, and the last one, another card text for the date. Okay, so you're gonna save, copy this, paste there. So now we don't need this, so we can get rid of it. And let's align everything perfectly. Everything is good. It's good everything to nest together like that. remove the spaces. As you can see, everything's nested. Save it. I'm gonna go back to our app. Voila, as you can see, it looks much better than before. It'll be nice if we make this bold. We could just use normal, we just put here like H2. Did I put H3? H2, and put the title in there. Right. Okay. So that's kind of like how I should envisioned it. There's some space stuff here. We can make the logo smaller if we want. So if we go here, and we have a class called logo, and we have this app that CSS that's already there. So just underneath it, and we don't even need any of this, but underneath it we just could say that logo, and then we give it a width of like 100%. That's not rendered. Yeah, that's maybe let's give it like 50%. Yeah. We could center it, all that is fine. We could center. Let's align content, center, something like that. It's not working, but that's fine. I mean, you could make it much better. The cards are all attached. You could make it better that too. You could give it a color, some things like that. But I think you guys understand the main thing of how to use React Strap and Bootstrap together to make things better. So, any questions so far? Any questions about the styling? Okay. So far that's what we have. If you guys don't have any question, I'm gonna go over the assignment. And also I want to test the assignment. I haven't tested it, so keep that in mind. Don't fork it yet until I test it. So I'll test it tonight. So this is the assignment. So the assignment, you will be working with an API from NASA. So this API is called Astronomy Photo of the Day. It shows a photo every day. If you go to here, basically today it's showing a video. Is it right now? Yeah, basically every day shows different picture or a different video. So as you can see, this is I'm very into space and things like that, NASA. So that's why we're trying this out. And also they have a nice API. But in general, you just have to read the whole thing. This assignment is more like you have to know the details. So I'm expecting you to kind of take the time to read the README and understand what you expected to do. Okay. So basically what we're doing is we're gonna, the instruction here says that this is a really fun project and want to show your family, and also you can put it later on your resume or portfolio. You'll be starting from scratch and build an entire application. So this one is not like handheld. I'm not going to be adding a lot of information in there. So you're expected to kind of build the whole thing, building the API, the components, and also adding the styling on yourself. You don't have to design. You don't have any specs to follow for this project. So you don't have any specification to follow. So you have to come up with how to show that image. So it's just one image with a text and the title, and it's up to you how to show. So use React Strap to kind of style it the way you want it. Okay. So, and this is a setup. Make sure to fork it, and then npm install, and then npm start. See what's in there. Do your git flow, and here's the MVP. So you have to plan if you want, you could use this sample spec design. So I added some link to it here. So these are like different specs of how things are shown. And also you could just draw it out how you want it to look like, whatever way you like. Once you have the design plan in mind, break down the design into individual components. So break it down into individual components. Plan which component will hold the state, which data each needs props, and where you will be making your data fetch. Now it's time to jump into code. You build your structure, and then you grab your API from this link. But keep in mind, it does not show you the API right away. You have to register for a API key. And also it's limited how many times you can call this API. So make sure that you don't do it right away. Just do your styling and all that stuff, and then do the call and API. So here it says you don't need to use a key. Okay. However, they changed their rules, so that's why this is showing that. For example, if you want to browse the API and you want to grab one of these APIs right here, it will not allow you. So right now, if you just go to here, this link, it will say there's no API, there's no key provided. So make sure you provide a key, API key. And this is how you add the API key. Basically, you take the API and then you say, okay, $API underscore key is equal to, and then whenever you register the key they give you, you put it right there. And then this whole thing, you put it in your API call. So you have to have the key before you do anything. So, and then you use Axios to call and all that. Everything we did today, use effect to make sure that that you basically you have the API call. More information here. So you just read, and I think that will help a lot. But this is a big project, so take your time. Make sure you start tomorrow exact 6 p.m. If you could start before that, it's good. If not, start 6 p.m. and then finish it when the day ends, 9:30. Put the time. As long as you put the time, as long as you're thinking about it, as long as you're working through it, I can help you. But if you don't try it, it will be really difficult for you to finish it. There's not much setup here. So you have the app.js and that's it. So you have to add all the other components yourself. Any questions?
Mahan,
So
we're required to do like one picture and one text, something like that, or?
Yeah, so the API, the NASA thing, which is I don't know if I closed it. So NASA, yeah, it's only one picture that you're going to be showing. So you're going to grab it from the API, and this is how it's going to look like. This is how it's going to look like. But you're taking this page and you're redesigning it. You're making it look a little bit better, right? But you're showing it exactly like this. You're showing the description, all this stuff, this writing, all that stuff, and the date. Make sure you show the date too, which is right here. And you show this video. So this video will be a part of the API. They will give you the name for that. Any questions? Okay, I'll modify this, and don't fork it tonight. You could fork it starting anytime tomorrow. So so I'll make sure that it's actually working. It's been about like 2 months since I worked on this. So all right, any other questions so far before we close? All right, okay, good luck with the assignments tomorrow, and also make sure to send the other assignments. If you having a hard time with it, let me know. And after about maybe 30 minutes from now, I will do a quick help desk for the previous assignment, inshallah. So I'll take a 30-minute break. So I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.